And one of the interesting things about Russia too, when when Obama went there, I wasn't really paying attention to Obama because I knew they'd either treat him like a serf or kind of indifferent to him. I shouldn't say they treat him like a serf like I did before. They didn't really treat him like a serf, but they were kind of indifferent to him. But what's interesting is all the military attaché that came with him and worked out all these deals. And they do is taking massive steps to boost security cooperation with Russia. U.S. is doing this. I don't think London likes that, but they're doing it. They're doing it out in the open. That's good. When I see all these top non-neocon generals going over there with Obama and working out deal, Obama sits there and has tea and whatever, and then behind the scenes we have military paraphernalia and they're working out all kinds of deals with them. That's good. That's good. That means even if you think we're at war with Russia, we're not at war with Russia. Maybe they're playing that good rabbit, bad rabbit deal. We look like the bad rabbits and Russia look like the good rabbits around the world, but they're both going together to do something bigger. They're both coming together to get something done. That is another wise guy. But look for broad-based military cooperation. There's always been cooperation between our space programs, and that's always good. So if you got military cooperation, at least behind the scenes, they're signing agreements, they're talking, and you have broad-based space cooperation, which has always been constant. There's not really much to worry about, no matter what the neocons want. But that's pretty much that. Now, as far as the missile system or whatever, well, they may include Russia in that, which is fine. That's all they want. But trying to keep Russia separate from Europe is a no-go. But they can work it out. They can work it out if as long as the neocons aren't there. The neocons are trying to hold back a Russian-German axis, and that ain't working. And we can't do anything without the Russians anyway. So parts of Anglosphere are parts that we can deal with, are very, very practical. Other parts are neocons and they're nuts, but they're going out and the new side's coming in. So the only thing you can do again is be on a consistent message. In your opinion, I'm a racist. You're just saying that because I'm white. Anti-racism is just a code word for anti-white. That's all you can do. And stop. Don't be so afraid of everything, and don't be in some consensus trance. Don't be looking for something that may or may not be occurring. But like Rohawa, yeah, you don't have to worry about warfare. The European tribes got warfare virtually covered. Now, getting them to go to war, again, you have to have law on your side. If you're in the army and you're going to have lawyers all over the place checking stuff. The army has a huge bunch of lawyers in Iraq all the time, walking around making sure laws aren't breached. That's how that works. That's all practical politics now, full spectrum practical politics. You don't want to start breaking any laws. You can go to war with anyone under the law, but you can't advocate lawlessness. It's just why is the game like that? I don't know. I don't know who made this game. It just is what it is. And Eurasianism. A lot of people are freaked out over Eurasianism. Some of the top foreign policy advisors have met with one of the stars in Russia. Oh man. Let me Google him. But Eurasianism, when it first came out, now Eurasianism, of course, to me is wordism, but it isn't. It's 90% Russian nationalism and 10% wordism. So you kind of got to watch that. It's a third position. It's a legitimate third position. The other legitimate third position is, of course, was National Socialism. They're opposing both capitalism and communism, and pretty much anything with the looks of being Anglo, what they call Anglo or American, which is basically Jewish or Judaized or whatever you want to call it. And Alexander Dugin was someone who worked for the KGB, and he is a toast of the town in Putin's circle. And some of the big wigs and foreign policy advisors, in fact, Obama's main foreign policy advisor has met with him, which is interesting enough. But it is it's approach that has the appearance of being multicultural, multiracial, at least what the critics say, but in reality is fiercely Russian nationalism and fiercely been labeled neo-national socialism. But what it does is it acknowledges tribes have to have their own space. And he does this in a kind of cloak and dagger. When I first read about it, it sounded like, some kind of super ethnos between the Eurasian. All we have to do is believe these words. The Eurasian culture is superior. And that's what he's doing is controlling the Caucasus with that type of talk, because he's got so much land it doesn't matter. But it does not advocate multiracialism. It's a lot of cloak and dagger. A lot of people got caught off guard with Eurasianism because they don't understand someone like Alexander Dugin is very, very slick. And so these ideals became mainstream and acceptable. And over the course of the past couple of years, especially over the course of the last, they've started tightening it up. And it looks more and more national social. It looks more and more like Russian nationalism disguised behind. In other words, what he's doing is disguising Russian nationalism behind giving everyone their own space in the Caucasus and everything else, and he has a whole big global agenda designed Eurasianism. It is not some lightweight Eurasian cultural bloc. It is a lot deeper than that and well thought out, and very interesting. It's a rejection of the West. In reality, it's a rejection of the it's basically Byzantine. It's basically pro-Byzantine. But it is pan-Russian nationalism and pan-European nationalism, and basically acknowledging all the legitimacy of the tribes and tribal space, and the legitimacy of culture over globalism and all the everything that he would think that the late Western civilization and Anglosphere stands for. Of course, he does it without saying it expressly. Now, he has in the last 12 months, in my opinion, revealed some interesting international strategies having to relate to it. But he's come out with that, and Berezovsky, or whatever his name is, I can never pronounce his name. His daughter's on MSNBC, but this is Obama's foreign policy advisor, has met with him. But he is a big deal, Alexander Dugin, and but you got to read between the lines. Now he understands practical politics too. That Eurasianism stuff was just thought about something, in the Caucasus, some kind of little cultural affinity between Russia and Turkey and yada yada yada. It is far broader than that. It is far broader than that. It looks like one of his opponents in London called it a new national socialism. Well, it is a third position. And anything third position can immediately become a fifth position as soon as it loses its ism. Yeah, I prefer it just be called Russia for the Russians and everyone else gets their own space, but he can't say that because that would have been labeled, oh, that's Nazism. But he worked for the KGB way back when, and he got his start, and he's a very, very big deal. But he disguises it as a form of universalism. Now, typically, that's where Europeans go off the course, when they disguise something as a form of universalism. But the Russians are very, very clever. They're basically rallying all these troops against, basically against the Anglo-New World Order. That's what they've been able to do under this Eurasianism banner. They've rallied Chavez. They've rallied all these people, against the Anglo-New World Order. But they didn't do it under a banner of German nationalism or National Socialism. It's basically Russian nationalism disguised as what they define as Eurasianism. But I invite you to read some of his latest writings. It is pretty interesting stuff. But again, it's a little too much wordism for me. I just prefer him to define it as Russian nationalism. But if he does that, of course, that's not the game. The game is you got to be a little bit broader than that, at least right now. But it is interesting. It's got some attention, and he knows everyone who's anyone in the racialist struggle in America. They're very, very interested in that for different reasons, and he's very, very clever, much cleverer than people think. Oh, he's just some theorist. No. This is a KGB operative at one time who was very intelligent in how to disguise his particular agenda in a universal way to bring on other tribes to rally against to control energy flow. Which is interesting in itself, but that's something I'd be aware of. What else can we talk about? Oh, Mongolia. Mongolia has a problem. The country Mongolia. Swastikas against China. The neo-Nazis of Mongolia. Yeah, the Nazis shoot the Chinese is spray painted. This is another Time magazine article. Time Online, at least. But Mongolia, I guess they want National Socialism. They don't like people running across their border. They don't like if you call the Muslims a Nazi and you call everyone a Nazi that wants any type of self-determination, you're eventually going to get a planet full of Nazis, and something like Eurasianism is going to take hold, and boom, And the Japanese are on board with Eurasianism too, so it's a lot broader than just Eurasia.